Mini skirt on, take my body in glitter. Platform sneakers, all the boys want a picture. Foreign cars, I make rich look richer. Save your breath, baby, I'm not going home with ya. Mini skirt on, take my body in glitter. Platform sneakers, all the boys want a picture. Foreign cars, I make rich look richer. Save your breath, baby, I'm not going home with ya. Mini skirt on, on, on. Foreign cars, I make rich look richer. Save your breath, baby, I'm not going home with ya.
All right. What is going on, beautiful people? I am Wesley from A Connection TV here on YouTube, the one place on the World Wide Web where we actually adopt similar connections despite our differences. And this is going to be a very interesting conversation because I have some great personalities on this live video chat with me. Okay, let me introduce Miss Olivia, Hope Giselle, and Black Official. Welcome, 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 welcome. This is going to be an interesting live discussion because we are all members of the LGBTQ elemental P blah 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 crew. Okay, and over the last few months, really, there's been a lot of conversation being had on social media, in real life, online, everywhere about recent bans. Conversation with celebrities and how they feel about, some people of the community, certain celebrities who are members of the community having their own thought process on things. And I felt it very interesting, a lot of the comments that I would find under these posts. Okay, one post in particular that I had on my Instagram, let me go to it real quick. It states, it's interesting how a lot of gay people fail to understand trans people, like a lot of straight people fail to understand gay people. And that has over 100 comments echoing that sentiment. And so before I get into that piece, I want to talk about one particular piece that seems to be driving that specific misunderstanding, and that's pronouns. Which has become like a big thing with everyone. And so I don't want to go too far into it, but I'm gonna say, how do you like to be identified, the people on here? And y'all can talk freely.
She and her.
Okay.
Beyonce when I'm being funny.
Okay. Okay.
And I'm definitely he and him.
Okay, Olivia.
Mm-hmm.
Her.
Okay. Do anyone on the panel have a problem with any other pronoun or trying to understand the structure of the pronoun system and how certain people want to be addressed?
Yes.
Not. For me, it just depends. I mean, I don't know. It's kind of confusing sometimes because you have especially when it comes down to the non-binary part, where people say they're non-binary and they'll go by everything, he, him, she, her. But then when you call them him, they're like, no, call me she. And I'm like, okay, you just said that you are non-binary, so make it make sense. I'll be confused.
Okay.
I am confused. I'm confused. I can do the singular pronouns, that is fine. I think when I get to the they, them, that becomes difficult. And then when we get to the non-binaries, it's like I'm not a non-binary, I'm a gender non-conforming. And that's when I'm like, what the fuck? Like, and so for me, to be very honest, I think where I get the difficulty is not necessarily that it's hard for me to palate, because it's a new culture. So it's harder, it's gonna take time for me to get there. And I'm not trying to go out of my way to be disrespectful. I think I have the difficulty when I am in conversation or in rooms or in spaces with people who are non-binary or gender non-conforming, and it seems that it's aggressive, like you're upset with me because I'm having this challenge. Like,
Right.
I'm not trying to go out of my way to do this. But give me a little bit of grace while I am speaking. So I don't know.
I feel like a lot of individuals expect us to already know all of the pronouns before we even step to them. And if we don't, then we're in the wrong because we're ill-informed. And I don't know how people are supposed to sit comfortably in that space because I don't know everything, but I'm willing to understand you as long as you teach me a few things. I'm
Right, respectfully.
But I feel like for me, I need to be taught because I knew nothing about Z, Zimself, Zir. I
That's a first for me. When that come up, that's new. That's new for me.
Looking right here on this chart, we have he, him, his, himself, her, hers, herself, verself, viz, ver, zim, zir, themselves.
And we can be mispronouncing these too, so forgive us, guys.
No, you're you're not. You're using them correctly.
Oh, am I? Oh, okay. There we go.
I don't know, is it Z or Z? Because it's both Z, and I don't know if you say Z or Z.
No, you're using them correctly. So I actually have a friend who uses those pronouns, and Z and Zir are usually just like the tonal enunciation, but it's pretty much Z or Zay. So it just depends on the person and how they kind of sort of teach it to you. But I was taught by that person that it was Z, Zir, Z, Zim, Zay.
Can you break that down for me? Because I'm still confused.
So, I mean, for me, I didn't bother, to be perfectly honest with y'all, I didn't bother learning the differences and what they meant or whatever the case it meant. Like all of those things, my friend told me that that's what they wanted to be called. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, I don't need to understand like where the Z and the zero come from. I don't need to know what they represent. If that's what you feel like represents you and that's what you want to be called, then by all means, like, my understanding of the word doesn't matter. If I love you and I respect you as my friends, as long as you're not asking me to call you nothing, that I think is just asinine, like maybe call you something like the rapist or something like that. Like, I'm okay with calling you or using whatever pronouns you ask me to use. So
Yeah,
I can't tell you more.
I'm kind of the type of person who thinks about future reference. Like if a friend does, and I get where you're coming from as far as like friends go, because I love a lot of mine. And if they ask me something like that, me personally, I'm gonna want to understand because I may run into this issue with somebody who's not a friend. And if I'm gonna call you something, I want to be like, okay, I don't want to just be saying it and I don't know what it means,
So according to this article, it says she, her, hers, and he, him, his are a few commonly used pronouns. Some people call these feminine and masculine pronouns, but many people avoid these labels because not everyone who uses he, him, his feels masculine, and not everyone who uses she, her, hers feels feminine. There are also lots of other pronouns in use, some of them more gender neutral. Here are a few you might hear. So going back to Z, here, it gives an example. It says Tyler ate here food because Z was hungry. Yeah. I just have never heard that before.
I mean, it's not as frequent. It's not as
frequent. What?
This is the first time I ever heard.
I was gonna say it's not as frequent. Even my friend who has those pronouns, like they understand that oftentimes they're gonna be misgendered as a man, and so they kind of like slightly take each moment to educate people into the Z space. And I think that it's mostly just because they and them, even though people complain about it every day, they're a lot easier to like at least formulate your mind around a sentence. When you get into Z and Zir and then he and here and like all of those things, I think that a lot of those people recognize how hard that could be for language. So they kind of like if you've noticed, a lot of our favorite like I'm non-binary celebrities have also like added basic pronouns back to their stuff. Like Kehlani went from going they them to like now I'm she they. India Moore went from they, them to like she, they. Janelle Monáe just had an interview where, you know, they talked about the fact that like people are still misgendering them, but also they get it because they are Janelle Monáe. They came into the, you know, the game as she, and so they added she back to the they and them because they get it. So I think also that might be a good thing or a good space to start too. Like when you have friends who are using different pronouns that you don't necessarily understand right away, is to say like, hey, while I'm figuring this out, just for the sake of conversation and making sure that I don't upset you, like what are some of the like the neutral ones that you're willing to accept? Like, can I still use she every now and then if I slip up? Can I still use he every now and then if I slip up? And oftentimes, especially folks who are using pronouns other than she and he, will allow you that space to kind of sort of be fluid when using it in conversation.
Okay.
I haven't had this experience. I'm not gonna lie, I haven't had this experience.
No, it's okay. I feel
I
it.
usually get beat up, which is then I usually become part of that group that I don't even want to do any. I want to do anything. Like it is easier, and what I'm talking about is the they thems.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It is so much easier for me to just, my brain can go she, he.
Right.
Without trying. The they is hard. And I usually don't even want to engage. I just be like.
So speaking on the they, I wanna look at this real quick. I don't know if you guys can see it on your screens, but
yeah, we can.
His or her versus singular they. Around 1795, the language authorities, Lindley Murray and Joseph Priestley and Hugh Blair, amongst others, campaigned against pronoun irregularities in pronoun use, such as lack of agreement in gender and number. Without courting words, this can only be done in the third person singular by use of compound terms like his or her. It also goes into saying that grammarians in 1879, 1922, 1931, and so on have accepted they as a singular term that could be used in place of he or she, though sometimes limiting it to informal constructions. So I didn't know that.
I either. So lost.
I never knew that. You know,
still lost.
They was always plural. I didn't know back in the 1800s they established in some areas and some groups that they could be considered a singular use.
Well, that was not what we were taught in school. I'm confused. Somebody
But I
did.
mean, think about it though. We were taught that in schools. Like if I were like, let's say you hop out of an Uber, especially back in the days when we would do like Uber pools or whatever the case may be. Somebody gets out, you have no idea who this is. They left their keys in the seat. Even before I get to the example, you see how I just say they left their keys in the seat, right? And then you would say, oh, this person left their keys in the seat. Maybe you should call them. You're talking about a singular person. So it's not to say that we haven't been taught how to use they and them singularly. It's the fact that I think that honestly, a lot of the time, we want to say that it's hard because it's another thing to add to the list of shit that we gotta like add to the list of shit that we already feel like we have to learn, you know? Like I think when we already feel like there's enough on our plate, we have recession over here, the kids doing this and eating on God knows what to get themselves high these days. You're like when you're a parent and your kid comes home and says, I'm a they and them, you like, wait a minute, you was just a karate kid yesterday. Like what's happening, right? And so I think that for a lot of us, it's not the fact that it's a hard concept to grasp. It's just like in the grand scheme of things, like on all the stuff that we got to do and the way that the world is moving right now, the last thing I want to have to do is remember to call you a they and a them when I got so-and-so trying not to eat Tide Pods out of my laundry, you know, like.
So I think we're kind of like on the same wavelength.
Yeah.
In terms of we want to understand and we're willing to understand and we're willing to respect. I think we would just hope and pray that the person would let us know how they would want to be addressed and before they just decide to go off on us. Right. Because Bootsy Baby, and I'll put this comment back up, states that my cousin stopped talking to me because I misgendered them. And that's like a yikes. Like how do we even, or why do we even get to that point? And so, Bootsy, I'm gonna ask you if you're still alive with us. did they tell you this ahead of time and you still were misgendering them? Because
no. That can't be the thought process. Can't be, well, then now that's your fault if we're gonna go down that
no,
road.
I'm asking. I'm trying to figure this out.
And it opens up the space for, if a person is genuinely trying and then has one mistake, two mistakes, fuck it, 20 mistakes. Really, like 20 mistakes. Like, we have to open a space where it doesn't feel combative, especially when the intention is pure. Because my intention has often been pure, and I feel like my feelings are, I am getting aggression, and I'm just like, whoa, like, stop. Like, you do have to give me a little bit of grace, because this wasn't what I knew when we were younger. And that's this idea of how we are speaking with one another wasn't part of common language. That's one. And then two, how I knew you, how you were presenting yourself as a person to me. So you have to give me some time and grace. Just
so how much time do you need? A month? A year?
No, I don't need a month, but I might have the occasional, like, slip up. And I'm not gonna lie, I might have the occasional slip up where I give, and this is the non-binary. I have to, so it's not, I mean, it's very easy for my teens. Like, that ain't hard. But the non-binary, come on, that takes a second for the day. It does for me.
So what she says, and I tried all weekend. I asked her, since you just changed your identity, I need time to adapt. I see a lot of facial expressions, Hope.
Because as a trans woman, like, there's a lot of nuance, and I don't want to assume anything about Bootsy, because Bootsy might be, you know, very much so like a Olivia type person, where it's like, no, bitch, my heart is always in the right place, you know. But when dealing with Black people, I always have to remind myself of my experience and the very typical experience that you do have as a Black trans person in these spaces. And oftentimes, what I like to challenge people, especially when your heart really is in the right place, it should not be easy for you to step back and say, you know what? I am trying, and I have been trying all weekend, but I did witness Uncle Joe disrespect you. I witnessed your mama disrespect you. I witnessed your brothers come in here and call you Tito all weekend. I witnessed all of these things. And now here I am, little nice cousin Bootsy, right? And I made a genuine mistake. But it was easier to take it on little nice cousin Bootsy, because I don't want to start nothing with my brothers because my mama gonna be on their side. I don't want to start nothing with my mama because my auntie is gonna be on her side. I don't want to start nothing with my aunties because my cousin's gonna be on their side. And so little cousin Boosie, she just gonna take it on the chin and be like, well, bitch, I ain't do nothing to you, and keep it moving, right? And so sometimes there is that space of like understanding when the energy that you get in ain't even for you. And being so much of an ally sometimes that you're willing to chalk it up in that moment and then come back and say, hey, sis, I did mess up and I want to apologize for that. But also, do you want to talk? Because I have seen what's been going on and I don't want to be a part of that. So how can I help? And I think that oftentimes is people don't want to have to go that extra of a mile to like be the ally to that family member that they say that they want to be. Nobody wants to have to go that extra of a mile. It's just like, I got the words right. I don't care if nobody else respected you. I don't care if everybody else was rude. I don't care if everybody else was mean. I didn't do it. And it's like, that's cool, but that's not enough, because when this person did it and you stood next to me, you said nothing. When that person said X, Y, and Z and you stood next to me, you said nothing. And so now I'm upset at all of these people and you were in the closest proximity. So while all of this isn't for you, like, can we talk a little bit about how we could have maybe even circumvented this moment if you had been there for me like you said you was before we went into this function together, right? Like, and it's a lot of work because it's like, bitch, I don't want to do that. I didn't come here to be your babysitter. I didn't come here to, like, you know, help you through this trying time. I came here.
That's uncomfortable.
There's a bunch of different things that go into that, and I just feel like the facial expressions are just because I know that as Black family members too, once we feel like you've crossed that line of like being a good person and now a person is expecting more than you're willing to give, that trying becomes an attitude, and then that attitude joins the rest of the people who weren't trying, and now I feel ganged up on. So now I gotta cuss all of y'all out, and this whole thing is blown up. But it only looks like I blew everything up.
Okay, so I'm going to take it on the opposite of Boosie, right? I'm going to take my experiences because when I'm listening to you talk, I'm like, okay, let me go with my own experiences.
Mm-hmm.
Is there space available to understand that I'm also going through my own challenges being that Sue? So as much as I want to be your ally and your champion, you know, I need you to also take on some of it that I'm also dealing with my own shit, and my own shit is still very. Oh my God, come on, Olivia! Hard. See how hard it is for me.
I see.
I have to go through my own trials.
Get it out, Steve.
Are tough for me. And I already feel like as a Black woman showing up in my family, just as a Black woman showing up in America, I am dealing. And so, oh, I don't want to go there. No, we're going to go there. So hope, right? Sometimes I'm having difficulty with my, not my family member, my friends who not decides, that's rude, like who is a they, them. And I knew they were born male. I have difficulty here, and I'm not gonna lie, because we're now, unfortunately, in this space, like trying to figure out whose trauma or whose, you know, space of having difficulty is greater than the other. So I look and I'm just like, okay, so you were born male and you had all of these opportunities. And I do understand you were born male and Black, but I was born Black and a woman. So I got chores and then I got more. And so I want to show up for you, but I'm also a lesbian. And I need you to just give me a break. Just give me some breathing room. So not crazy. You know?
Mm-hmm.
That's what
it's crazy because from just what I'm hearing and just thinking about certain situations that I've been in, it ain't I'm gonna sound rude and it's just straightforward, whatever. I didn't tell you to choose to change your identity.
Oh, wow.
So I feel like you said, you should give me that grace. Because especially with them day, I'm just not that type of person. At the end of the day, if you choose to walk away out my life, maybe somebody else will come who appreciate it. But I'm not gonna sit here and sit around and call you them day all day. You know, that's just not what I'm gonna do. I'm either gonna refer to you as he or she. If it offends you, I'm gonna tell you up front. Like, if it offends you, I apologize, but that just is what it is because it makes me uncomfortable. You can't be selfish with stuff like that. If your friend is feeling uncomfortable about something, you should be able to understand that as well.
Okay, hold on. Hold on, wait a minute. Because you done said some things real quick. But before we dissect what you just said, I want to piggyback to Bootsy real quick, but because she left a whole something down here. And I just want to make sure that we're listening to her or adhering to what she's writing, because she is writing. This is my blood cousin and we were raised together. I even acknowledged, hey, let me know what are some other ways to say it. No response. And her family was ostracizing and forgot her birthday. And my sisters and I went out of our way to link, acknowledged, and acknowledged we were a safe space. And I am literally constantly defending you. In the end, she dismissed my feelings and said she didn't want to hear or listen. The mofos that respect you, you want to give them grace. It felt as I was being censored or diminished because I had a different opinion, etc. It was honestly hurtful. She then said I should go by non-binary pronouns to stop the misgendering. So for me, reading that, and I could be wrong, but for me reading that, it sounds like she attempted, she tried, and I guess to your example that you gave, Hope, she was unpacking everyone else's responses to her as well, and then brought that on to Bootsy, and that's what Bootsy got in return. So that's what I'm hearing the example. And that, that sucks because if it sounds like Bootsy is attempting to care and show a sense of trying to understand, and unfortunately, that person is not in a space to receive that because they're being bombarded by a lot of negativity outside of you, Bootsy. So I don't know if I would attach that to you per se, but just to give that person the amount of time that they need to get through what they're getting through seems like to be the course to take. Now back to Black. I don't know if I heard you correctly. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounded like, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, it sounded like, I'm paraphrasing, if you are uncomfortable with having to figure out a person's identity preference, that's not your concern. And if they're not willing to meet you halfway, you just gonna pay it and not care about how they feel.
I'm not necessarily gonna not care about how they feel, because if they wanted, me to care, if they didn't want me to care, they wouldn't have told me, basically.
Okay.
So I'm gonna care about their feelings.
Okay.
It's just that I want mine to be considered as well. If it's making me uncomfortable with calling you them and they, compromise with me in some way, shape, form, or fashion. You know what I'm saying? Don't just expect me. If basically say I'm the type of person who will try, but if I know it's gonna make me uncomfortable, I'm not gonna do it. So try to meet me halfway with that. Like, I'm gonna respect you. I'm gonna understand what you're trying to have me to do, but try to at least meet me halfway. Don't be completely selfish with it. Because like Olivia said, like, we deal with so much stuff in this community already on our own. So if just meet me halfway. Now, I need you to meet me halfway.
So, question: what's the uncomfort level for you?
Them day, like before it was explained to me to just a few minutes ago about like them saying it back in the 1800s, it was like that sound kind of,
just new and out the box.
Yeah, it's a little, yeah.
Okay.
So it's not used to it, not used to it. My brain don't automatically go there when I'm thinking about a singular person. It goes to he or she.
Okay. I see a lot of comments over here. I'm glad that y'all joining. I really appreciate it. Melvin Johnson says gays and lesbians only talk to people based on how attractive they are to somebody. It's never genuine with the LGBTQ community.
Melvin, why are you mad?
Oh,
that's
not aggressive.
That's not true.
That's not the case.
Yeah.
I apologize that you've experienced that.
Yeah, that sucks that that's been their experience. Okay. I want to kind of maneuver on because of that. The actual topic or question or statement. Are members of the LGBTQ community too sensitive? We had Dave Chappelle come out with this some people would call it comedy act. I don't foresee it as that. I look at that whole situation as like he got paid to talk. Because I didn't really laugh at anything he said. But a lot of people were angered by a lot of the things that he said. And then you would have the statement, oh, y'all are just sensitive. Lil NasX posted a picture of a beautiful woman on his profile and said, oh, my transition went smoothly. Some trans people had a lot to say about that and were angry by that post. Oh, you're too sensitive. So are we as a collective too sensitive? Are trans people too sensitive? Are lesbians too sensitive? It's just the gays? Or should we have the ability to care about what we want to care about and be able to flex that?
We're not too sensitive. People are just used to us being quiet. And I think that's the thing. When folks are used to you never voicing your grievances about anything for years, right? Like when you finally do say anything about anything, it's like, well, why didn't you say anything before? We've all been in a relationship where we thought that something was cool. You know, you wake up every morning and you never make the bed. And for the last 7 months, y'all have been together. You woke up and you've not made this fucking bed. Excuse me. And it is hard. But you know, like the last 7 months, you've woken up and you have not made this bed, and then on month 8, here your partner is out of nowhere, like, "Yo, like I got an issue
Man, it's
like that you made,"
man.
and it's just like now this person is sensitive and all of these things, but it's like, no, this person isn't sensitive. They've had this issue for the last 7 months. The problem is they didn't feel the need to say anything about it. But you feel justified in the fact that you haven't made the bed for the last 7 months because they haven't. And I think that that's what's happening with the queer community. For the last 50 something, 100 and something odd years, we've just kind of been like, okay, it is what it is. We're going to be at the club at 3 o'clock in the morning behind the orchard tree. And that's just where we're going to get our little life. And we'll complain about all our stuff to each other. And now that the kids are like, no, I'm going to Capitol Hill. No, I'm going to my Twitter. No, I'm going to my blog site. Folks don't like that. Folks don't like when the underdog and the people that they've spent so much time writing out of history start to write their own stories back into it. And I think that that's why there's this new, oh, they're so sensitive. And it's like, no, we've been had these thoughts. Welcome to the conversation that we've been having. But it didn't just start yesterday.
So I'll
It's true though. I'm sorry.
yeah, I just wanted to say, so coming from my perspective, and I talked about this briefly on one of my YouTube videos, I do feel like any and everything that's stated seems to pose a problem for whatever letter that we're talking about in the community. And for me, because I've been a Black gay male since I can remember, I've had to maneuver in a certain way, especially in our Black community, but let alone the world. And I've just gotten accustomed and grew, I'm just going to say, a thick skin to things that could be perceived as coming towards me in a negative way, if that makes sense. So any and everything, like I'll go back to the Dave Chappelle thing. When I watched his situation, I didn't feel no sort of way because I just looked at it like he wasn't talking to me. He was talking about his experience and it had nothing to do with me. But I could see why other members of my community felt some sort of way. And so with regards to some of my trans people, like going back to the Lil NasX thing, I do not understand why there was an anger behind him posting that beautiful woman and saying his transition went smoothly.
Because these are the things that get the girls killed. And this is why the conversation that needs to happen between gay men and trans women need to happen now. Because the fact that as a Black gay man, you don't understand that is usually a part of the reason why we end up in arguments against each other rather than like being able to help each other. Like,
you say how it's the killed part. I mean,
yeah, like, and that's the thing. So like, I have to walk y'all through it. It is sad that I have to, but like walking y'all through it, right? So these jokes are only jokes when we're talking to each other, like family business jokes and kiki jokes amongst each other, like in our safe spaces where we get that it's a funny that's not supposed to be anything other than a funny is one thing. But when you're telling these jokes in a space that other people have room to interpret it for whatever evil they want to interpret it for, it puts people in a space for a couple of different things to happen. Number one, that young lady, if she hadn't already built a following or been known, people might have assumed that she might have been trans. And then you have somebody attacking this young woman who's not a trans woman using the brute force that they use against trans women. And don't say we've never seen it happen because unfortunately she's the wrong motherfucking, excuse me, she's the wrong example.
I love y'all.
She's the wrong example, but at the end of the day, we saw this happen with the girl that ended up in that fight video with Shanquilla Angela Robinson, where she was vilified and she's not even a trans person. So that's number one. But number two, when we talk about the idea of trans women, these are the things and these are the jokes that get some cis men all riled up, and they be like, see, they looking better and better. These doctors are doing the work. We gonna have to start, you got to just start slapping these girls as soon as you think that they are trans. And these are the conversations that we are privy to, because these are the spaces that they come in and tell us. They come into our Twitter spaces. They come into our rooms, our DMs, our emails, and they say the most vile, nasty, disgusting things after these jokes are posted. And then they make remix videos to all of these things, and they send those things out to people who are a little bit less intelligent. And it's like, all y'all see sometimes are these like placating BS, Hotep activists making videos, and y'all think that it stops there. No, those Hotep high top people that are just going to talk and say the things and get the money and the coin from the content are talking to people who don't have that agenda. They're talking to other people who have the means and the agendas to go out and look for a reason to harm people, and they often do. After a lot of these specials, we see violence in the home go up for LGBT youth. We see violence in interpartner relationships between LGBT people go up, and we see the deaths of Black trans women skyrocket after any of these specials. And if you look back at the data, after the Kevin Hart special with the kid, there was abuse to 2 different LGBT young boys in their own homes by their own fathers while the mother was present. After the first Dave Chappelle special went up, there was a string of Black trans women and trans women all over the US that got murked up off of here. Like, there's so many different things. And so these jokes are not just the jokes that we think that they are, because we're assuming that high level people and high level thinkers that understand that it's just a joke are watching. You got hood boys on the block that are just waiting for a reason, that are using Dave Chappelle and whomever else and Lil NasX's post as an excuse for why they are afraid and why they should have the right to go out and hunt trans people. And it's not okay.
But that's what I feel like I hear you saying is that, which is why initially I was going to say 2 things can be true. Because what I think I hear you saying is we have this content that's out there, and then unfortunately we have people who will use anything to find a reason to then harm others. So for me, then I go like, let's say in a perfect world, right? We reduced that content and it didn't exist. Those people who needed a reason to go out and do something, wouldn't they just find some other reason? And so when do we get to a point where all we're doing is just constantly censoring ourselves? Because I was always here for it, and I'm thankful for that information, because I was always here for it. As long as I don't hear anything that could slightly remotely lead to, violence talk, like I would have beat her ASS or something like that, anything like that, then it's not funny. It's not funny. Mm-hmm. But if it's just I don't know about you, or other looks or things like that, I kind of leave it, and I leave it because I don't feel like there is any intent to harm. So now if we're going into what you're
right. And so I'm on that side of things. Right. But in hearing Hope, and thank you for this, because until now, I didn't look at it as such, to be honest. But hearing you, I see the other side, because whereas we are of sound mind and body, the rest of the majority aren't, especially the people that aren't a part of I call it the alphabet clan. So when you're talking to a straight person, a heterosexual person or whatever, they're not going to think like we are. Oh, that's the bad chick. She look amazing. Get it, ma, or whatever. And Lil Nas, they favor each other. Their dark chocolate skin and blah, blah, blah. Beautiful. A regular heterosexual person, whatever, is not going to look at it like we would and champion that. They're going to be like, what? Oh.
I looked at it like he was trolling, like he always does.
Like he's always. That's what the confusion. That's where the confusion came in for me.
Now I get because upset.
Like, I understand why anybody will be upset about it, but when does the unity come in when it comes out of our community as a whole? Like, at the end of the day, trans women are still part of the community too, and the man made a joke. I understand, but it seems to me that every situation that has happened in the last few years where a celebrity or somebody of higher status has said something, everybody chose to go crazy, be upset about it, instead of just taking it for what it is, because at the end of the day, we do it to each other. We sit right in our community and do these same things that these celebrities and these people on higher statuses are doing, and we do it to each other. That's what they see.
I mean, but
They
we
see that.
allow that for the same reason that we can call each other the N-word, and we still would not allow a white person to come in this space and say that. I don't care how
I guess I'm just, because of how I was, raised in my part of the community, like, I really don't see it that way, because at the end of the day, I feel like if we allow it, why not let them do it?
So you would
Don't get
allow a
upset.
white person to come in your space and call you the N-word?
If he is not being aggressive towards me, it's different levels to that. To me, it's different levels. If it's one of my homeboys, like, nigga, okay, yeah, that's my homeboy or whatever, like that. Now, if somebody's coming, it's my bad, I'm sorry, but if somebody's coming, if somebody's coming at me aggressively and saying it, now that's a whole different story. It just depends on what, it depends on what's going on there. But I just feel like we allow too much of the same stuff that goes on in our community, and then when somebody else say it, we get upset.
Well, so here's where I'm gonna go in one different space. I'm gonna turn a little bit. So one of the things, hope you're gonna be real mad about what I'm gonna say. It's okay. I am open to teachable moments, and I'm also tired of every time I have a conversation, you are teaching me. And what I mean by that is that there isn't grace. And even in this context, like with the whole, I'm specifically speaking to Lil NasX and then posting, and saying I transitioned. I looked at it as a trolling kind of situation. I was kind of annoyed, and this is one of those moments where I'm gonna go, okay, we've been a little bit sensitive now, because at what point in time are we just gonna scale back a little bit from this? The reason why I'm saying that is because he trolls on everything,
everybody,
on all topics,
everybody.
And so it wasn't done to offend or anything like that. And I felt like it wasn't him coming. I didn't take the picture. I didn't take the message as I'm coming for trans people. It was like, I'm goofing off.
She looks like him. She looked like him.
I mean,
that's why he did it.
Just so that we're clear, I agree with y'all. I'm not one of the folks that.
Oh, no, you good.
Like I wasn't upset about the post. I thought, because I followed the girl, I was like, oh, she do kind of look like him. Like, and that was the end of it for me. But like, I do understand where some of my sisters were coming from, because it's just like, and it's also one of those things where, Olivia, I agree with you. Like, as a person who does do education, like sometimes I have to tell my husband, like, I don't care about what's going on in Zambia. I don't care about what trans girl got killed after 6 o'clock. I hope it's off the clock. I want to watch Family Guy and eat bad food. Like that's all I want to do. But like, I do have to be mindful that if I'm going to be the person that people call on to join conversations like this, I need to like think about it from the perspective of other people. So that way, when these conversations come up, I'm not speaking from my standpoint of like, oh, well, I don't care. I can give both standpoints and say like, oh no, I thought it was funny, but I also understand why a lot of other people might have felt like it was detrimental. So I just want to clear that up too. Like, I wasn't the person that had an issue with Lil NasX's post, but I do understand why some people did.
And again, I do appreciate you giving me that perspective, because even though celebrities don't want to adhere to the responsibility that I think that they should, I feel like there is an overarching responsibility of someone in that huge limelight on them, that huge spotlight on them, that they should be mindful of the type of things that they put out there, because they have a bigger outreach than a Wesley from A Connection TV or an Olivia. And that's just how I feel about it, because I feel like for me, it kind of goes down to, if you do really care about your potential impact, then make sure that you're mindful of what you're putting out there. And that's just in the space that I sit in. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but
I don't, and I'm going to ask you this one directly, Olivia, because I think that this is a thing that, since I've like been doing my thing on the womanhood side of the spectrum of life, I understand now where some women come from when they say gay men think that they can get away with just saying and doing anything because they're gay, and that don't work on every woman. And I think that this is one of those moments, or Lil Nas X has a lot of moments where some of it is trolling and some of it is I'm gay and I'm flamboyant now, so like I'm gonna be able to get away with this. And that's where I think a lot of this new form of trolling comes from, because before I got it, you were in a scuffle with somebody that started something with you for no reason and you said something that was trifling. Cool, we all laughed. But now a lot of his trolling just comes out of nowhere. Like he woke up this morning, looked at that girl and was like, oh, I'm going to post this. Cool. Great. But at the same time, like, don't think that you being a cheeky young gay black kid that wears pink sometimes and gets his nails and hair done is going to absolve you from the fact that low key something that you said wasn't cool or okay. And I think that if we didn't stop it here, the next time he would have said something to a different community or said something about a different community, then it wouldn't have been funny then. And I think that that's the thing too, like going back to what Black initially said, where it's just like, well, where do we come and stand in solidarity for each other as a community? Low key, I think sometimes it's being able to tap your brother on the shoulder before he gets all the way in the building with that crazy stuff and say, hey, take that jacket off and let me put that in the car for you because it's a lot. And we're not going to be in a space where that a lot is going to be respected. And I think that this was the moment where we was like, hey, Nas, before you get over there to cisgender black women and start thinking that you finna make jokes, let me have a jacket real quick because you're a little bright for this club, you know. And I think that some people will look at that in about 2-3 months when he says something stupid, and they're gonna listen to this podcast and say, Hope said we tried to get him to take that jacket off. Mark my words. Mark my words.
I think
I want to echo real quick a lot of the comments I'm seeing here on this YouTube. It's very interesting. Thank y'all for watching. I appreciate y'all coming through. But these comments are really interesting. So it kind of piggybacks off of the next topic that I wanted to talk about. What do we want from each other? And then what do we want from the world? Right? Because I'm seeing things like things can be really confusing when there is a community that wants to be noticed, but then we have so many rules of how we receive that community. Then another one was I think that says in fairness, the black community was more sensitive about race when we were at the peak of fighting for the civil rights. Another one is I don't understand why gays are so desperate for heterosexual acceptance. Another one is that's why gay men stay in the gym because they think if they look good that everybody would accept them regardless of their immoral behavior. Yeah. That is really aggressive.
That's a deep one. That's a deep one, though. That's a deep one.
I wanted to still give Melvin shine.
Melvin is going through a lot.
That's a deep one, though.
I'm gonna answer this for me, and then I want y'all to piggyback on this as well. So what do I want? What do I want from each other, from the alphabet clan, as I call it? I want us to acknowledge each other. We all exist, and we exist in a collective that was created by a white man. Okay, back in the 50s, back in the 40s, whatever it was, he devised the LGBTQ, and then letters just start coming and coming and coming. Okay. I want us to realize that we have been put in this collective, okay, for various reasons. And I feel like no matter what, each letter of that collective has an issue with the outside world. Okay. I feel lesbians have an issue in the world. I feel bisexual people have an issue in the world. I feel trans have an issue in the world, and so forth and so on. So for that, for me, I would love for us to accept each other first, and then attempt to try to understand each other so that we can respect each other better. What do I want from the world? There's a lot that I want from the world, but I'll start with the Black community first, because Black people have, I feel, a never-ending battle, okay, at least in my lifetime, with the rest of the world. I feel like it should be easy. Don't be smiling over there in the corner. I feel like it should be easy for us to welcome and hug each other. because no matter what, I'm black first. When you see me on the street, I'm black first.
But I still have to undo my white supremacy that I've been ingrained.
Oh God, girl, let me get through what I gotta get through.
Unlearn the white supremacy.
But that's where I am. That's where I am with that.
Politics all over the place, which is why it can be safe for certain people to be in certain spaces. We talked about this earlier. How
hold on, because it's still my turn. Reclaiming my time.
Yes, reclaiming my time.
Because I don't want that. For me, that's not the excuse for black people to misbehave. Because we are systematically oppressed, that's not the excuse for black people to mistreat people of the LGBTQ community. Because we were through slavery, that's not an excuse for black people to mistreat feminine acting men. So that's a whole, don't open up them can of words. That's a whole.
Yeah, because you about to go completely left with that. It's a lot.
I will forward the question to, I'm gonna start with Hope. What do you want from each other, and then what do you want from the world?
Child, it's hard to want. I'm for real. It's hard to want anything from anybody because don't nobody owe you anything, you know.
Okay.
You can say what you want, but that don't mean a person is guaranteed to give you anything. I guess honestly, I would just want more support. Right. I don't necessarily need all of my gay brothers to like understand it or get it. I just wish that we had more support in the fight. Like when people are just coming at and attacking the girls, and especially when you know that like is somebody who isn't capable or hasn't done whatever they're being accused of. Like, it would just be nice to not look in the comments and see men that you have partied with and drunk with and shared spaces and you know, given grant funding to in the comments talking about, I mean, well, they need to, like, what? Like, I gave you your first comb to open that salon, sir. Like, what do you mean? Like, so it's just like, I wish that I had more support from like my gay brothers when it came down to like the stuff happening. Like, I don't need you to understand it. You can feel however you want to feel underneath all of that. But like when the stuff is going down, it's kind of just like when you got your favorite cousin that started something with a person at the club. Like, I'm gonna ask you what you did later because I know you started it, but I'm gonna help you jump her now, right? Like, I'm gonna help you jump her now, but I know you started this, and we gonna have a talk later. Like, and then I think from the world, I just the same thing. Like, mind the business that pays you. If it ain't bothering you, your check, or your kids, like, leave it alone. And it's just that simple. And when I say bothering your kids, I mean like internally, mentally, they came home spiritually messed up. I'm not talking about in school they had to learn that gay people exist, because they gonna learn that regardless. So, you know, like, if it's really not like something that's messing with you, your bag, your children, or how you live and your health, like, leave it where it's at. I think we will all be in a better space if we just followed the business and minded the ones that paid us. That's it.
Sir Black, what do you want from each other, and then what do you want from the world?
So from basically for the community, I feel like we need to stop the need for validation. Like, I feel like people in the community, they do so much and so many crazy things because they feel like they have to be validated by everybody who sees them or everybody they come in contact with, instead of just looking in the mirror and validating your darn self every morning. As far as the world goes, mainly the Black community, especially when it comes down to kids, because I have 3 boys of my own, stop trying to make them so tough to where they cannot be vulnerable, because this is a problem within the Black community, period. And a lot of times this is why young men and young boys turn to other things, because they're not allowed to be vulnerable at home. So yeah.
Okay. Miss Olivia, what do you want from each other, and then what do you want from the world?
I'm gonna echo what Hope said. I don't have a want for anybody, because I mean, you can want all day long, but whether it's gonna happen for you is a different kind of situation. We all have a lot of work to do, so I don't know that I could actually request any hope, because not hope, want. I was looking at Hope and I said Hope. I don't know if we can request any desire because we have our own work to do in all of the alphabets. There are subgroups within our well, there's a subgroup within my alphabet, and I'm aware that there's a subgroup in the G's. I don't know about the B's, the T's, the QIAs, and the pluses, but there are subgroups, and in our subgroups, we are still fighting heteronormalcy, and so and our own white suppression and all of that we're trying to deal with. So we typically don't show up for each other. If anything, with these eyes, what I have seen is that the lesbians will show up more often than not for trans or effeminate men, and that's it. I've never known the G's to show up for the L's. No shade.
They don't show up for themselves.
I don't see y'all show y'all like the G's don't show
They
up.
don't.
I don't know. I mean, you show up for me, but that's because you're my friend. But but the G's typically, I have not been in an experience where I see that they have moved out of their self-absorbed world and have moved into understanding the protection and or care for the others. So, however, when it comes to the studs, I do know that I've learned more that studs have more difficulties with the T's now. I just learned that today. I'm today years old. So we got work to do. I can't ask for anything right now because for each other, because my own group has too much work to do. And I don't know that we can do this work simultaneously. To be very fair and honest. But I also said that I never thought that I'd see a Black president in my lifetime, and look at that.
Yeah.
I feel like it's going to be a thing for a while, though, because no matter what, even in the G's and the L's and T's, like you said, there are like pockets of people that feel how they feel, and that's just that. And so there are so many differences within the collective. We're not monolithic at all. And so just because you see me, I'm not a representative of all the gay men, and neither of us are representatives of all of the people within our particular quote unquote group. Powerful conversations. Why can't we just let people be who they are going to be?
Oh, I have a question.
Sure.
So if I were to look at the data just raw and not have conversation, I don't know if I know of one white. I don't know too many white people. I'm sorry, that's just the truth. And so I live in Atlanta, and so I only know one white trans person, right? And so I know that there is a big issue with the safety of trans women. There's a big issue with Black trans women specifically. When I say trans women, I'm talking Black trans women. So I kind of want to know, on the other side of the rainbow, do the sisters help each other, get help from the B's and the L's and the T's? Not just the B's and the L's and the G's? So do the white trans women have more help from their community than Black trans women?
Hell yes.
Absolutely.
That's how white supremacy baked into our bodies. Then that's exactly what it is.
Yes.
Let's stick together.
It's not even about them sticking together. It's about the fact that their community values their contributions. A lot of gay Black men don't value the contributions of Black trans women, or they want to take credit for the contributions of Black trans women, and vice versa. Everybody's trying to be the first, the last, the only one.
And that's crazy.
That's the problem. Everybody's so busy trying to be exclusive that nobody wants to go on sale. Bitch, take your fucking time and then leave. Like, you don't have to be the only thing in the window. Like, leave.
Not go on sale.
No, seriously. Like, I wish that a lot of people would understand, like, okay, you've had your moment. This season is over and we need to replace this window display. Like, it's time for you to go. And if we had more time, like, where people understood that about themselves, we wouldn't be in arguments with one another about who did this and who did that and where this funding is going, because we would trust each other to take care of each other when one of us ran out of it. And we don't.
And that's where we need to be. That's exactly where we need to be.
But we don't even have any organizations that I'm aware of that our funding doesn't just go to nothingness. No shade, I said that.
Most of the time they don't. a lot, and it's no shade. A lot of the times that we have been granted funds, it's not to say that the girls have not been granted money, because the girls have been granted millions of dollars, and some of them run off with it. Casa Ruby. Some of the girls, get every surgery in the book. Some of the girls, do end up sponsoring their own, love project that they couldn't do because, the grant funding would only sponsor them if they thought that they were white owned. Like, I get it. But it's one of those things where it's just like, you have so many Black gay men out here getting money. Like, so many Black gay men out here getting money. And a lot of the times, no shade, and especially in Atlanta, it's off the backs of the fact that they're claiming that they're going to help trans women with that money, and then they don't. So it's just like,
okay, all right. Well, I'm not gonna hold y'all for too much longer, but I will ask if there's anyone watching, if you have an actual question that you would like us to address. Society X Network says the white rainbow even gets more support from the white heteros than we get from each other. And we're our own worst enemy in a lot of situations, and that's just so traumatizing and dramatic in and of itself. And like I said, I just wish we could get out of that space.
Need to be, that is something that it took me a few years to figure out. There is something inherent in us that we need to beat up on somebody.
Come on.
Beat up on somebody because
we understand systematic oppression and white supremacy and white people have the power and we were slaves and I forget the term, but they dehumanized us and whipped us, and we get all of that, but when does that stop? When do we stop allowing that to be the excuse for why we act Neanderthal, and we act Neanderthal to each other? Right. But here's the thing, like, we have these rich Black people in Atlanta beating up on each other. So it's not even I don't have money, or I'm broke, or I'm not educated, or I grew up on the lesser side of town. We have millionaires like Candy and Tamar Braxton arguing over the dumbest stuff.
Education doesn't always equate to resources. So don't
That's crazy.
Well, I didn't just say resources. I said education as well. Education is a part of that.
No, but there's not always a direct correlation with financing or resources to education. So don't do that. Don't do that. Don't.
I'm just saying, I grew up on the wrong side of town.
No,
typically, I grew up on the wrong side of town, and people would have expected me to be that type of person because I grew up on the wrong side of town. So because I grew up on the wrong side of town, didn't have much, and blah, 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 whatever, okay, not college educated, whatever excuse can be painted on me because I'm Black, that I should be acting a certain way. And I just don't subscribe to that, and I will never subscribe to that. At the end of the day, it's worse for me as us being a Black people. If I see Black, I want to support Black. I want to champion Black. I don't care who you sleep with, what you got going on, what you don't have, what you do have, because I know Black people already have it, horribly in this world. I see Black, I want to support, I want to champion. Let's go. Let's get this money together. Let's grow together. Let's teach together.
Absolutely.
And why is that not common? I don't understand. And I'm not going to attach it to whatever we didn't get when we grew up, or whatever, whatever excuse. That just doesn't make sense. Because if we all want a better world for each other, we have to be a part of that, making that better world for us. Mm-hmm. And it has to start with you as the individual. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not looking to any of these celebrities to tell me how I'm supposed to act to my fellow Black person. Like, to me, that just doesn't make sense.
I kind of don't want to be like a duh moment of it, but there's like a duh because, of course.
But it's not though. But
you're asking on a global scale, how do we change this? And we are already like regular, like kind human beings that are going to try. We're not talking about the people who you were referencing just now with regards to they have access to all of these things, but doesn't necessarily mean that they're kind people who will open themselves up to doing the work, to then treating each other differently. So I love this kumbaya And I love these conversations, and sometimes they just become circular because we're here. And I feel like I'm a good person. And then in the same space of me feeling like I'm a good person, I'm also slightly frustrated with my alphabet soup people for a various reasons, right? I got issues with the G's, I got issues with the L's, I got issues with the B's, and I got issues with the T's. And most importantly, the issues that I got with the T's is new stuff, or what I would consider new stuff, because the old stuff wasn't even that hard. Like, okay, that's not hard, that's easy. I got this. We're transitioning. Okay, cool. Non-binary and the gender non-conforming. That is a challenge, and I need patience and grace.
Period.
That's I'm sorry. I keep on saying that. Clearly, that's what I want.
That's what you want. That's what you want.
What I want.
Okay, so Black, what would be your closing message from this conversation tonight for the people in the back and the people that might come across this video that aren't currently live with us?
Well, I just feel like we as a community and, you know, as the world in general need to just start sticking together. Like y'all said, we've gone through the trials of slavery and all that stuff like that, but we can't expect the world to do what we don't do for each other already, and that's support each other, and that's to be there for each other, and that's to just show up. We just need to show up. Like, we shouldn't have a crowd mentality. If your brother or your sister is winning, celebrate that. Celebrate their win. Your time is coming. Period.
All right, Miss Olivia, the same thing. What's your closing message?
What I said 5 minutes ago was my closing.
Okay. Okay. I'm gonna piggyback off of Sir Black and say the same thing. You know, on my when I open my videos, I say the same thing over and over again. My quote is, "Welcome to A Connection TV, the one place on YouTube where we actually adopt similar connections despite our differences." And that has just always been my message, and I want to continue to shout that through the rooftops. Okay, where we adopt similar connections despite our differences. That is my message, and I want to give that out. I'm gonna close out with Miss Hope. What is your closing message for the people in the back?
Look here, stop trying to be exclusive all the time. Everything goes on sale at one point or another. That's it.
I love it. I love the metaphors. I love it. Well, I want to thank y'all so much for coming through. Amazing, mature, digestible conversation. This was much needed. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Brandon V, thank you to everyone out there that is watching. It's the people that will come across this because it will stay up on YouTube. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I saw all your comments. Some of y'all questions was questionable, and I was not about to entertain that type of stuff on this video. We are not about to do that, but I love y'all all the same. Adopted similar connections despite our differences. Anyways, thank y'all so much for coming in on this live. I really appreciate you giving your hour and some change to me. I thank you. Like Brandon B said, this was needed, and this conversation will come across someone that will appreciate it and that will be able to take something away and a better understanding, especially with how we need to interact with each other and give each other a little bit more grace and a little bit more empathy and understanding, especially with regards to pronouns and how we move around this space. So thank y'all. Y'all have a blessed night, and I love y'all so much.
We'll be back.
Bye.
Bye.
Show up.